Coming up on your favorite podcast, the all-new edition of the Golf Pod comes your way. My buddy Ty drops in. We're going to talk a little bit of Rocket Mortgage Classic. Our guy Troy Merritt made a run, came within an eyelash of winning that thing. We'll break that down. Talk a little bit about the match between Phil and Bryson and Tom and Aaron. Should be interesting. And also get into our picks this week for the John Deere Classic, among so much more. So it's Ty, it's me, it's next. It's the Golf Pod, and it's coming right now. Hey, it's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim, and that is my buddy Ty over there on the other side of this computer screen from the palatial estate in the North Metro. Ty, of course, the insurance agent to the stars. Back again. Ty Schrupp, how are you?
Doing well, Tim. This is usually my plug where I get to say how excited I am for the podcast. But today I got to be honest, I'm here to get you riled up a little bit. As you know, we have a big golf match this week, which we'll talk about, of course. Of course.
Cannot wait.
And I have a feeling we'll get you a little wound up before the show's over. But as always, I am excited to be here.
I am as well. Last week, I just felt like the planets aligned right for the podcast last week. We had Tim Merritt in here. Tim was great. Loved having him on. And then all of a sudden, like clockwork, our guy Troy, who's been playing well, makes a deep run at the Rocket Mortgage. He aces one of the par threes on Saturday. And, he's one of the rare guys with a 54-hole lead that didn't go out there and just completely throw up on himself in the final round. He fought hard, and I was very encouraged to see what I saw.
Yeah, you and I have texted about this. I think that his play as of late is just going to be under the radar, right? Because he's not the sexy big name. He's 35. He's not 22. That's just not what the golf media is looking for. But since we are following Troy Merritt very closely, it's easy for us to appreciate, and I think it's pretty impressive. He's made a lot of money. He's done a lot for his status next year. And I was giving Tim a little bit of shit last night when I saw him at volleyball because I wasted 2 vacation days watching golf. Not too happy about that, but it was time well spent. Could have been on the lake, but I was watching my guy Troy, and it was a fun weekend. A lot of fun golf to watch. It's nice when someone you're rooting for. It almost felt I don't want to be thrown in the preposterous statement tourney award bracket, but it felt a little bit like me personally watching Tiger because it was someone I was really pulling for that went out and played well. And you have to take advantage of the opportunities you have to watch him actually hit shots. We got to see every shot, so that was great.
Yeah, it was terrific. He's done a lot for himself, as you mentioned, because he vaulted himself into the top 60. So that cements him. He is not. Yep. He's got status for next year. He's deep into the playoffs. He'll probably make the second tournament for sure now, the BMW or whatever, and that gets you a certain amount of status. And if he can continue to climb just a little bit more, when you get into the top 30, if you can somehow make the Tour Championship at Eastlake, that pretty much gets you into a lot of these WGCs. That gets you into a lot of these limited field events where you're guaranteed. That's when it really becomes a racket on the PGA Tour. When you can go to all these no-cut small events and just pad your stats and pad your money and pad your FedEx Cup points, that's when you know you've made it. And we're rooting for that. I want Troy to get to that stage and enjoy a couple of easy years on the tour as he makes his way towards his 40s.
Right, and he's kind of doing it the way we want him to in terms of just playing well. It's not just 1 week off and winning a tournament and getting 2 years that way. He's doing it kind of the old school way. He's playing great golf. He's been in the mix a lot. Went from a T7 to now a T2. Kind of backdoored the first one and front-doored the last one. I'm really happy for him. And as everyone knows, it's not it's not a secret. He's officially our guy on the podcast.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. He is our guy on the podcast.
Thanks for Troy.
We root for him week in and week out here on this podcast, and he's going to continue to be the guy on our pod. So go Troy Merritt. Great job by you last week. Super excited. So I want to work. We're going to have time to talk about our match, our version of the match. 2.0. I cannot wait to get to that here momentarily. I also want to talk about my game rounding into form today. But let's work back. Let's Tarantino this thing back towards where we finished off our pod last Wednesday. Let's start with the match last night. I caught it. I watched a good chunk of it. I probably watched 16 holes of it last night. As soon as it looked like they had it pretty much locked up, I was out. Unbelievable golf course. Unbelievable. Just incredible with Bears. And I don't know how I feel about Bears being that close to the golf course, but that place was stunning. It blew my mind last night, and I was thoroughly entertained. I know Michael Breed and Brad Faxon didn't like it. They were hating on it this morning on SiriusXM, but I was in. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it, as I enjoy all of these match things, and I'm guessing the rating wasn't too bad last night.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a number of people, and it seems like everyone was dialed in. They have that way of timing it well on a night where not a whole lot's going. I know that the NBA Finals were going on last night, but aside from that, there wasn't a whole lot going on. They're good at picking those West Coast golf courses where it can be primetime golf. That's kind of our little bit of peek into primetime golf. The golf course definitely stole the show. I knew very little about the golf course aside from that there was a 777-yard par 5 and it was at elevation, and that's about all I knew about the golf course. But you and I went back a little bit, back and forth a little bit. I know you said you'd love to play the golf course. I like playing golf too much to play a golf course like that because I'm not sure that I could continue after hacking it around that place. It would be difficult. But yeah, the scenery, the nature, that was awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the 6.5 hours, but
no, me neither. That was
you just have to take. You just have to take it for what it is, right? It was guys that you don't get to see. It was inside access. It was mic'd up. You never get to be mic'd up. I think Charles Barkley does a great job. It's just a very different thing. I thought that the whole production was pretty good. The camera work was a little spotty at times. They had a hard time picking up balls that ended up being in the middle of the green, which was a little disappointing. They really try to make it about the competition and make it a big deal who wins. They haven't figured that out yet. Even when Tiger and Phil were going toe-to-toe, I don't think that the result ended up mattering a whole lot to people. So that remains to be seen in future matches. I'm sure we're going to see them. But a lot of money raised for good causes. And I was thoroughly entertained, so I don't know what else to ask for.
So that's just it. I don't understand when people complain, like listening to Michael Breed this morning, who I like as a general rule, but listening to them just kind of complain about it, and I'm like, I don't know, like, who loses? Like, who loses watching this? Like, they raised millions for Feeding America. They raised millions for My Brother's Keeper. They raised millions for different charities all over the place. They got to give Montana basically a 5-hour infomercial, which, if you're going to give a state an infomercial, I'm okay with it being Montana. I just am. You know, it's a state that isn't it's not hustle and bustle. It's known for its outdoor wildlife, bad cell phone service. Like, I'm good with that. Like, if you wanna sell that to me, I'm good with that. Go ahead. You don't need to sell me Pebble Beach again. Go ahead and sell me something else, and I love it. So who loses here? I thought it was great. I agree with you. 6.5 hours too long. I'd love to figure out some way to fill that time other than interviewing Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I was out on pretty much all of the interviews. They're a little random. The people who are being interviewed don't seem to have a whole lot of a heads up on what they're going to be talking about. There's a lot of talking over people. That's one thing that'd be nice if they could figure out. But bravo to the golf course, not just for putting on but for the ultimate marketing event. Like you said, the state of Montana, great for them. But if you are a part of a guy's golf trip, or girls, whatever, a golf trip, and you have a little bit of a deep pocket, tell me that's not your next destination. It is.
It accomplished exactly what it wanted to, because I absolutely Googled Montana golf courses this morning. Not just that course, because it's like That course requires a little more work. It requires a mandatory 3-day stay, like a minimum 3-day stay to play that golf course, and it's a couple $100 to play that course. But it makes you think, like, well, there's got to be mountain views at other golf courses, and now you're starting to think about your options, and I have to assume that is all they wanted. The state of Montana and all of that golf course especially, that place will be booming in the next year, guaranteed. That was a great showing.
That was all of what Paynes Valley wishes it was. That was Paynes Valley on steroids.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible last night. I loved it. And again, I just like seeing different stuff, and that's what's cool about this. Now, I do think there are a couple things that I would do to tweak it. I do think we need 2 matches going at once. I think. I'd love to see the LPGA get involved. I'd love to see the Cordas take on, somebody, or maybe one Corda and a celebrity against the other Corda and a celebrity. I'd be 100% in on that. I think that would be terrific. Just to give us something else to watch besides this match going on. I would also like to see the format switch occasionally. I think the modified alternate shot is great. I don't want it for 18 holes. Yeah. I think I'd like to see it. And I wouldn't mind if they wanted to make this a 9-hole event and keep the pacing the same. I'm fine with that too. Like, I totally am. I'm totally on board with that. If you say to yourself, we're going to own this 3-hour window from 5 to 8, I'm in 100%. I mean, it'd be no problem with me.
I think that's all. I think all of those things would make it a ton better. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot to lose with if they did have 2 groups. And I know that they probably worry a lot that a group's going to be up, 5 up with 8 to play or 9 to play, and that kind of eliminates that to a point, right? You're going to have something that you might be dialed into who's going to win. I do have a question for you. So I went back and watched. So I watched the same. I watched the first 9 holes, and then I went back and watched about 4 or 5 more holes until they were kind of cleaning up on the back. But so I went back and rewatched this morning where Phil stepped in and said, okay, we'll concede the hole, but Bryson, let me know what you think. Let me know what you're thinking on this putt. And from a number of different scenarios, I know the exchange I'm talking about. Yep. From a number of different scenarios, I got the feeling that Phil Mickelson a little bit was trying to test Bryson DeChambeau. And I think in some ways Bryson DeChambeau failed a little bit, because I think Phil was pushing him to say, oh, you're not thinking of this, and then Bryson would say, well, of course I'm thinking of that. Yeah, and it's XYZ. And I thought that Phil a little bit was flexing his muscle, and I was all in on that. Phil loves to hear himself talk, but he is who he is, and you love him for that. But so there were 4 things that him and Bryson discussed when Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers were making fun of him for geeking out. But so I want to know if you use any of these methods on the green, because I don't use any of them. So the calculation was accumulation of finding the straight putt. So finding on your half of, or your 50% of the green, where is the straight putt? Unless it's a double breaker, there should be a spot where that putt would go straight in. And then determining where your line is versus that straight line on a clock. So they referred to, I think, being like an 8 o'clock putt. Right?
Yeah, I've heard of this. I've heard of the method, but yeah, I don't use this one.
Then they factored in that it was a 2% slope, so that was and then they talked about that it was 11 on the stimp. So that all factored into, and them very, very easily agreeing. I buy that they do put this into the putt. And when you see a player walk with his green book to the side of the putt and look from an angle that isn't necessarily straight on. It isn't straight from the side, and it isn't straight from the back. And you think, what are they looking? Oh, they're probably standing on that straight putt line and trying to figure out where on the clock their putt is. So the combination of finding that straight putt, lining it up with the clock, percentage grade, and stimp, they were able to figure out that the putt should be 10 inches outside. He sets a tee in the ground, and he drains the putt right in the middle. I thought that was fun to see.
It was.
I've never seen a player break down that in depth, and I don't think that's necessarily a Bryson DeChambeau or Phil Mickelson thing. I think that's probably what goes through a really, really good putter's mind as they're lining up pretty much any putt over 4 feet.
It just goes to show you, I think, also how good even the worst PGA Tour putter is. Because I think you and I both agree Phil is not. If our lives are on the line, we're not taking Phil to make the 8-footer. Like, we're just not.
Nope.
And I'm probably not taking Bryson, to be perfectly honest. Arm lock or no arm lock, I'm not taking him. But it goes to show you just how much better they are at putting than you or I are. Like you think you're a good putter, and you think Bryson stinks at putting, and Bryson show up tomorrow and he'd make everything wherever we play because he just they're that much better at it than we are, and it was impressive to see. I actually think the opposite. I don't think Phil was testing Bryson. I really think Phil understands TV and understands perception, and I think he was trying to throw Bryson a bone last night. Like, I think he was like, I want to make this kid more likable. Let me show people how smart he really is. And, like, let's get into his brain. Let's get into his process. Let's let him try to be like a human being. And, you know, Bryson's awkward and weird and goofy, but I actually sort of enjoyed him last night. I thought there was an interesting juxtaposition between him and Aaron Rodgers being on the same team. You got Bryson with the whole bro thing all the time, and Aaron's just kind of chill, and Bryson is wound up, and he's 100 miles an hour, and Aaron is not that. And yet it was just an interesting thing to watch. And for Bryson, I don't know if it solved everything for him, but he's not Mr. Personality, and I think these are tough things I think he wants so badly to be liked. He just doesn't have the game to do that yet. But I think Phil was trying hard to get him to a place where, hey, dude, he's all right. He's not the bad guy or not this goofball that everybody kind of makes him out to be. Like, he's a good dude, and he's a smart kid, and he knows how to play golf.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think we're not exactly butting heads here, because I'm more saying that I think that Phil, maybe not even that situation specifically, but other situations where he was talking to Bryson about, you know, a short chip, what he was thinking, where his landing spot was. I do think he was, you know, he understands TV, and he would stop the match basically and say, okay, so I know that people want to know this, so tell it to us. But what I'm saying is I think Bryson failed a little bit. He had the opportunity to really say, hey, I do think about it more in depth than the average player, and I didn't get the feeling that was the truth. And I think that's hindsight.
I agree with that 100%. And I think that's Bryson not TV savvy, and Phil is TV savvy. Like, I do think that. It does also make you go, you know what? Green reading is a skill. Take the green reading books completely away from all of these guys, and let's just see how good some of these guys really are at reading a green, because it is a clear skill, and there are people that are using these books and surviving when they have no business surviving out there. So I'm in on that 100%. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, is a freaking stud. He drove the hell out of it and made everything last night.
He is, and I don't know what to make of that. He hasn't been playing much golf, but he was here 2 weeks ago with a bunch of buddies playing golf. So I predicted that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to play well. I just thought that, hey, as far as I'm aware, he's not a huge golfer. He doesn't always play the greatest at Lake Tahoe. And I was wrong. He played really well, and I think it just lends to the fact of why he is such a great quarterback, because he just doesn't get rattled. He was not rattled. Whereas, you know, Tom Brady is a different animal than they're successful for very different reasons. Tom Brady's a little bit more hype, a little bit more rah-rah guy, and he struggled in these matches a couple of times now. We've seen, opening tee shots, he's hit very poorly in both matches he's played in. But again, I'll bring it back to Rodgers and just say that he looked. It was so uncanny his golf versus his football. It felt like the same thing, which made me want to puke.
Yeah, and Tom looks uncomfortable at stuff he's not good at. Like, it's clear, like, he's not a good golfer. He's probably not a terrible golfer, but he's probably not a great golfer, and I think it sucks that he hates that he sucks. And he hates losing. I don't think he wanted to lose last night, and I think it pisses him off that he lost. That match meant nothing. It doesn't mean anything to him, but I bet it still bothered him. I bet he got on the plane, his private jet to go back to Florida, and he was like, I flew all the way to Montana to lose. pass. I'm not going to make sure that, I hate that. And that's Tom. All right.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on the match? By the way, they also need Justin Thomas or somebody to come be the on-course reporter again. Like, I thought that really added in the Tiger thing, and they need that. They need that too. They need that back.
Yeah. I thought that Cheyenne Woods did as her best, but the thing is Justin Thomas is friends with these guys,
yep.
right? Cheyenne Woods didn't necessarily seem to have a relationship with any of the four players, and that kind of came through. But yeah, Justin Thomas was great. I would have paid big money to have him. Unfortunately, he's probably in Europe right now getting ready for a pretty big tournament.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too, because I think that had a lot to do with this as well. So let's work backwards. We talked about Troy at the top and the Rocket Mortgage. Let's talk about, I don't want to get into the tournament too deep. I just want to talk about the major news that broke basically right after our podcast was done. We spent all this time talking about caddying, and Bryson and his caddy split the night prior to the tournament. Now, the caddy's not saying much. He says, I love Bryson, blah, blah, blah. I love, and Bryson's calling it a break. But that doesn't pass the smell test, right? You don't split the night before a tournament, especially one where if you're the caddy, you carried the bag to like a 6-figure payday last year for you, or at least a high 5-figure payday. Ain't no way you're giving up this bag the night before that tournament unless there is something really serious there. Yeah.
I mean, the Wednesday thing tells you everything you need to know. The caddy, if they're reading the tea leaves, if this is in the works and it's just an amicable, hey, handshake, let's just take a quick break, no big deal, maybe we'll come back together in a few months. It's not happening on Wednesday in Detroit, Michigan. I'm sorry. Something happened there. We may never find out, but we probably have a pretty good idea just thinking of who Bryson is. And he, as we learned during that match, thank God he didn't need a caddy. But he doesn't like to be wrong. He wants to be right. And he, even when he hits bad shots, he is constantly saying, man, I hit that just perfect. I don't know why that happened. He's not a guy who's going to put himself down a whole lot. And in order to have a relationship like that, I don't think the guy's ever going to be married, because it's got to be a give and a take. And I don't see a whole lot of give coming from Bryson. But yeah, that's definitely newsworthy. I was reading today because I'm interested in that story. I'm interested to see. At first I thought he's not going to find a caddy. I mean, he'll find someone, right?
Oh, for sure.
He's not going to find a caddy that's worthy. But then I was reading, and a major golf writer said he texted a high-profile caddy friend of his who has a job, and he said, if you were unemployed, would you take the job with Bryson? And he said, in a second, I would. Absolutely. And he said, why?
100%.
He said, you have a chance to caddy for one of the best players in the world, and it would be a totally different experience. Why not give it a shot? So he will find, after reading that, I'm convinced he'll find a caddy. I'm not convinced that he'll find a 4-year caddy player relationship, but he'll find a good caddy. I'm really curious to see who it's going to be. If he's finally going to accept the fact that, hey, I need someone who's going to kind of have the balls to tell me when I'm wrong, or if he'll just pick a guy who will shut up and carry the bag, a la Troy and Tim Merritt.
Here's what I say. Lydia Ko went through like 6 caddies in like 4 years because she was trying to find the right one, and people kept lining up for her bag. Because it's an elite bag. When she's on, that's a money-making bag. And this year, they found a caddy, and that caddy's making some good money on that bag this year. Same thing here. You can like Bryson, you can hate Bryson, but that is a 6-figure bag on the PGA Tour. And there are not a lot of caddies that are going to say, I'm good. I don't need that bag. I don't buy it. Like, I just don't buy it. And so I'm not saying that it's going to be like a Bones Mackay. I'm not saying that it's going to be, Steve Williams, although that would make – what a show that would be to see Steve Williams carrying the bag for Bryson. But somebody's going to take that bag, whether it's Joey LaCava, who says, you know what, Tiger, I got nothing going on for a year. Can I go caddy this kid's bag for a year? And they're considering Bryson and Tiger are pretty good friends, and they both are Bridgestone guys. I mean, would I be shocked if Joe LaCava picked up Bryson's bag for 6 months or 8 months while Bryson was searching for a caddy? No, I wouldn't. Not at all.
No.
Who's higher maintenance than Tiger Woods? And Joe LaCava's done great with that. So he would be I would call him immediately if I could.
Yeah, it didn't work out with the Puma rep, we found out, which I'm glad, because then we don't have to wait a little bit for that plug. I mean, we're going to find something out, I think, and it's not necessarily the permanent hire, but Joey LaCava would not surprise me at all if he was caddying for Bryson here at the British. We'll see. And
the thing is, too, is they got to make that call very quickly, because these protocols for this Open are insane, and it has nothing to do with the R&A or the European Tour. This is all British government stuff. It's a little ass backwards, because they had 50,000 people at Wembley Stadium for a soccer match the other night, and they're going to have 32,000 a day at the Open, but these players are going through some pretty strict protocols, vaccine or no vaccine. Like the journalists who have been vaccinated for 4 or 5 months going overseas are going to be tested 10 to 12 times in the next week and a half, and that is insane. You can't just grab a caddy off the street. They got to go through a whole list of protocols and processes.
Yeah, it to a point it annoys me. I read some of the player comment. A lot of the players aren't too happy about it, and they're speaking out about it. But I'm just glad there's a tournament. Whatever. I mean,
yeah, I think Ricky's comments were, at first, I think people were giving Ricky a hard time, and Ricky was very clear to say, like, look, I'm going because I want to play, and I love the tournament, and I love the people, and I love going, so I'm going to put up with it. I'm just saying it doesn't seem like it seems like I got to do all the work, and they're still letting 40,000 people at in the turnstile. That's all he was saying. And I think the other American guys are going to say the same thing. They're going to show up, they're going to go through the process, they're going to hate it, and then they're going to leave as soon as it's done.
Yep. And that's what they do anyway.
And that's what they do anyway. And guys like Patrick Reed, I think, have the right attitude. Did I just say that? Oh, my God. But Reed has the right attitude. He's like, look, I'm a European Tour member. I've played tournaments during these protocols, during these bubbles. I'm used to it. It is what it is. You just show up and do it. If you want to play for the Claret Jug, don't you? And that's the answer. So I'm with you. I want to see that, and I want to play. But the Bryson thing is fascinating, because here's my worry. I don't know if you can just get... I think the caddy thing is important, right? Tim talked about this last week. Because, the fact that him and his brother were pretty close, that made sense. That worked. And like when Bones left Phil Mickelson, his brother picked up the bag and they were fine. That relationship is kind of vital. I mean, especially when you move into a major championship. We saw that this doesn't just come together organically. Like Jason Day tried it with Steve Williams. It didn't work. It lasted 6 weeks. Jason Day hated it, got rid of him, because that chemistry can't be forced. It has to kind of just happen. And I'm a little concerned for Bryson the rest of the way here, that he's not going to have that voice he needs in a critical time.
Yeah, I don't know much about Bryson's family dynamic, but it's not a crazy thought to think it could be someone we've never heard of. It could be someone that is a close family friend of the Bryson DeChambeau brigade. I mean, that's something that a number of players have done, is taking that comfort over a veteran, and definitely something to keep your eye on. It could be Bryson DeChambeau's dad caddying for him at the British. We don't know, so stay tuned.
Absolutely. I'm going to do a quick encouraged, discouraged with you, and you can tell me if you agree with me on this. I've got 3 names that I'm encouraged by, 3 names I'm discouraged by after this past week. And you can tell me if you agree or disagree. Okay. First name, I'm encouraged, Ricky Fowler. I watched Ricky play on PGA Live Thursday and Friday last week, and I watched pretty much a lot of his shots over the weekend. He's starting to flush it again. And the good part is, like, when Ricky was going south, he'd be +4 after 6 holes all the time, and he'd be way too deep, and you couldn't get out of it. He was slapping it around the first 5 holes at Rocket Mortgage, and yet he was even par. So, like, that's a good sign. Like, oh, he's missing fairways, he's missing greens, but he's getting up and down, and he's riding out the storm until the good shots came. Good shots showed up, and I thought he played some pretty decent golf. And it looked like he was starting to flush it, both off the tee and with the irons. Very encouraged by Ricky Fowler. I'm buying Ricky the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect him to get the driver figured out. I don't know going back how his driving of the golf ball has been, but I watched a lot of Ricky on Thursday and Friday as well. And, as far as what you're saying about Ricky and me confirming or agreeing with you, it's not a small sample size. I mean, I've been watching him for a while now, and I think we have enough of a sample size to say, is he going to finish second at the British? Just because that's classic Ricky Fowler fashion. Probably not, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he contends. I do think that the game is there enough that it could happen, whereas I wouldn't have said that, at the Players or probably even at the Masters.
Encourage number 2, Joaquin Niemann. He makes the playoff, and that's the first. It's unfortunate. What a cruel game golf is. He goes bogey-free for 72 holes. Bogey's the first playoff hole, and he's out. But I'm in on Joaquin Niemann. He's going to win golf tournaments, people. I'm telling you, he's going to win a few of them in the next year. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins 2 or 3 in the next calendar 12 months. I mean, I got to see it, but I'm bullish. Again, I'm buying Joaquin Niemann. I was encouraged by what I saw.
Absolutely. I hate to be a yes man, but you knew what I was going to say here. I was mesmerized watching him play golf this week. I thought he was I don't know how he didn't finish 28 under. I thought he was the best player in the tournament. I didn't think it was especially close. Like you said, golf's a cruel game. He did, he kind of did knock it around a little bit, pulled probably the wrong club there on the first playoff hole and just hit it over. But it was amazing. I kept thinking this bogey-free streak is going to end. And then he would short side himself and knock it up to a kick in par. He was either, legitimate birdie putts or he was just kicking in par. So it was really impressive to watch. I don't know what to say about his swing. It's sort of Joel Damon-esque with the dip, but he just does it so well. And I don't think that what he did this week was an anomaly. I think that just was a testament to how good he was. Again, I'm shocked he didn't win the tournament. I texted you at one point. I have to, admit that I was wrong, and I said that Joaquin Niemann is winning this tournament, no question.
It was hard to argue there for a while. It was hard to argue.
And hats off to Joaquin Niemann. Very good stuff. He has the game 100%. When I watched the Rocket Mortgage Classic, I kept thinking there's some good players in this tournament, but there's none of the guys who are just cold-blooded killers. Cam Davis, you could make that argument, especially on Sunday, that he was cold-blooded. But Joaquin Niemann is in a different class. I feel like he's just, he is as good as, he doesn't have the pedigree, but he's as good as a Justin Thomas or John Rahm. He can go toe-to-toe with those guys, and it wouldn't shock me.
He needs a lid lifter. He needs like a tournament, like a breakthrough. He needs a big one somewhere, anywhere. Yeah. Like Spieth had that at the John Deere when his first tournament came, and then all of a sudden, like 7 of them got rattled off in a year. Last one. I'm actually encouraged by Bubba Watson. He had the really tough finish at Travelers, and he started off just spanking it around at Rocket Mortgage. I was like, he's going to miss the cut. And then he got it going and played some really good golf and ended up with a high finish. Like, he's starting to put some things together here in kind of a late season surge for Bubba Watson. I'm not saying it's enough to get on the Ryder Cup, and it probably shouldn't be, but he's starting to play pretty darn good golf, and it's actually fairly consistent golf, which is not Bubba usually.
No, he's playing really well. I want to see it a little bit more from him. Certainly encouraged on Bubba, who didn't play poorly on Sunday at the Travelers. That was kind of just par for the course. But he played really well. If I'm not mistaken, he made the cut on the number and then posted a clubhouse lead at some point. So definitely bullish on him. I still got to see it if we're talking about getting back into major championship contention. I still kind of have to see it down the stretch a little bit from him in a big moment, in a big group with a player like a Justin Thomas or John Rahm, or I want to see that from him because he seems to be showing up at these lighter card type tournaments. So I want to see it from him just at a different venue before I sign the affidavit. So
I've got 3 discouraged, but I'm gonna call an audible here and just ask you: are you encouraged or discouraged by Matthew Wolff this week?
Discouraged.
The final round was tough because he didn't. Yeah. He looked like he was a little hang dog. That I'm trying to smile and have a little more fun kind of win away. And you could tell he was battling a little out there on Sunday. I wasn't sure what to make of that tournament because I'm happy he made the cut and he played pretty well for about 2.5 rounds. But that 4th round was pretty tough.
Yeah, I think that's the type of golf course that, at first I was totally out on the golf course, but after watching a lot more of it, there were some quirks to it. It wasn't a terrible course. To me, it was just too flat. I look at that 1st and 3rd hole and I just think, okay, you're talking a straight short par 4 from the clubhouse with no bunkers and flat, totally flat. I'm kind of out on I just don't know why. What's the point of a hole like that? They got to put some teeth into it or something. But again, I came around a little bit on it, but I do think that that's the type of course that you probably could play well, even if you didn't have your best stuff, just by because Matthew Wolff is a really good golfer. Whether he has his stuff or not, he has it in him to play well. I think that about a number of golfers on tour that they could show up any given week and play well, and that could have been the situation there making the cut. So I'm definitely mostly discouraged with Matthew Wolff.
My discouraged this week, I didn't know what to make of it. I had him on the line. I didn't know whether to be encouraged or discouraged, but now we're looking at his last 3 weeks. Good run at the U.S. Open, tough finish, missed cut at the Travelers, comes back with kind of an up and down week at the Rocket Mortgage. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're a teacher, it's an incomplete right now, right? If you're giving a grade, I don't know if I have enough to assess. I need more time. The 3 I was discouraged by, I have to tell you, Rory, Bryson, Phil. Rory played terrible at the Irish Open. Just terrible. Again, home. I don't know if it's the home country thing, but he just doesn't. He has not played well in front of the home fans in a while, and I just don't know what's going on with his game. Bryson, we've talked about for obvious reasons, and Phil was a little weird with the media this week. Just kind of a weird vibe with Phil this week. I didn't understand what we were looking at half the time there.
Yeah, I kind of thought Phil would be above the whole gut reaction, making a proclamation like, I don't think I'll ever come back to this tournament because of one rogue sports writer who, take it for what it's worth, but you're going to judge an entire city off of, and then play the game after that of, well, the fans really seem to like me. I don't know, maybe I will, almost saying like, oh, maybe I have changed my mind in one day. I kind of thought he was above that to say, yeah, that's I wish that type of stuff didn't come out. The timing was curious, but I'm not going to judge a city for one bad sports writer. Every city has them. Yeah. And I think with Phil, it's easy to look at the one major win and say, how can you not be encouraged? But to me, that was a little bit of a swan song. And I think that Rory and Phil have shown me what made me be careful about a guy like Ricky is I don't take even a 2-week stretch or 2 out of 3 weeks playing well. Don't take that and say, oh, they're back, nothing to worry about, no reason to pay attention, just look for him on the top of the leaderboard. And I think I've been bitten by that a few times, and that's why I'm a little bit bearish on those guys. I certainly would be discouraged, though, by Rory. I mean, no question. Bryson, I don't know. I want to see how the caddy situation shakes out. I suppose there wasn't a whole lot to be excited about before that, but who knows? It could have been because of a toxic caddy situation. We don't know. So.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I definitely want to hear more of that story. I don't like the fact that Bryson ducked out of the media after missing the cut and didn't stand there and answer that question. Would have liked to have seen them do that. Yeah, I didn't like the idea that Phil suggested that Jay Mariotti being a toxic reporter in Chicago is the reason why the PGA Tour doesn't go to Chicago anymore. I'm like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. There's no way that that's the case. And look, I agree that we shouldn't have hit pieces in media, but the media is also not there to be your best friend. It goes both ways. Do I think this story needed to be put out there? Nah, probably not. But it's also behind a paywall, and probably nobody read it, or very few people read it. Phil brought more attention to it to the report. I didn't know who the reporter was. Didn't know anything about the story. Nope. He gave that reporter national attention.
Yep.
For
what?
Did. And I just don't understand why he felt like he needed to do that. I know that because he's won the PGA, he kind of thinks he's back in the game as the number one guy, and maybe he is. Maybe he is the top draw without a Tiger, and with Rory not being himself and DJ struggling. Maybe it is Phil's world still at 51, but I don't know. It just felt weird to me. I didn't like it. All right.
Yep.
Let's talk about important stuff. The match. Match 2.0. Ty, me. We take on the Scumbags this Saturday morning, coming up 7:45 at Victory Links Golf Club in Blaine, a stone's throw from the TPC of Twin Cities, where 8 days after we play, Tyus, a bunch of pros will show up and Monday qualify for the 3M on that course. We are playing it in Monday qualifier conditions. High rough, fast greens. Your thoughts?
Speaking of Scumbags, I guarantee the Scumbags at Victory Links have not cut the rough in about 2 months.
Guaranteed.
So, yeah, I've played there in Monday qualifier conditions, and it was, I think you were there with me. It was less than entertaining, very difficult U.S. Open type conditions. I'm feeling for myself, but I think I'm ready. Like you said, you dub these guys the Scumbags. There's no question they deserve that. I do have just a little bit of get Tim going material here. Tyler and Tony have been talking and relaying this to me. And first off, we want to play a little game. It's totally up to you. But have you ever played the game Red, White, Blue?
I have not. I have not played that. I'm assuming I understand it's a tee game, right? Where we play up at the different tees. Is that what I'm suggesting?
Yep. So you play you choose 3 tees. You play the mid tee. At a normal golf course, blues would be the tips, white would be mid, red would be women's and seniors. In this situation, you start with the mid tee. If you birdie a hole as a team, you would move to the back tees. If you bogey a hole, you would move up a tee. So you can move up as far as 2 from the tip, so +2. It's a little bit of a leveling the playing field type game. It could be fun at a course like Victory Links where it can get stretched out at times, and they also have short par 3s. But there was one stipulation that the Scumbags said that they're not going to play that game unless the best handicapper in the group, which is you, just always has to play from the tips no matter what. So that's their rule.
First of all, we all know what they're trying to do here. They also know that because my handicap is the shortest, they just seem to think, well, that's it. I do carry a 6 handicap or a mid-5 handicap, which, okay, is fine. I'm also the shortest hitter by 25 to 30 yards in this group, and it's not close. Right? It's not close. I don't play from 7,000 yards. I don't. Why? Because I can't. Right? I play from 63, 64, and I play golf from there, and it's comfortable, and that's what I do. Right? I'm not a competitive golfer in that regard. So I'm not playing from the tips. I'm not playing from 7,000 yards. It's not going to happen. Let me be very clear. Here's the reason why these guys are scumbags. I've said it. This is why they're a disgrace. Because, again, I said this 3 weeks ago, I'm going to say it again. On the tee, at the ramshackle golf course we played a few weeks back, they're asking for strokes and pumping the drive 320 with a little draw. Come on, what are we talking about? You don't get any strokes when you drive at 310 and straight with a little baby draw. That doesn't happen. You don't get strokes when you do that. Scuff it into the ground and maybe we'll talk.
Yeah, they did the old backwards hustle there.
That was not very hustle's bullshit. I'm not in on that.
Their part, they should have cranked her up on the back 9. It was not their best performance if they were looking for cash out of our pocket, because we know better this time around. The money will be tight. It'll be close to our pockets.
Yes.
And yeah, Scumbags is the perfect name. I think that's what the scorecard will read. I totally agree. Whether we beat them or not, which you pretty much have guaranteed a victory, I'll just go ahead and throw that out there.
I'm going to say this right now. They are not kicking our ass like they did last time. That's not happening. Mark my words. It is not happening. They, to their credit, those two guys are good players, and they took us behind the woodshed, and they beat the hell out of us for 18 holes. No doubt about it. No questions asked. I'll wear that ass whooping like a man because I know what I'll shake a hand when people beat me. That's no problem. I have no problems losing, right? But my friends, revenge is a dish that's best served cold. And revenge is sweet. And I will just tell you, I hate losing. I hate it. Nothing pisses me off more than losing, Ty. Nothing. I don't care what we play at. I'm not good at a lot of things. Like my friend Bob used to whip my ass at basketball. Whip my ass at basketball because he was better than me. But I played every single time because I refuse to give in. I refuse. And that's what will happen this Saturday. You, me, we are not giving in. Those boys are going to have to earn it. They're going to have to earn it. They're going to be in for the fight of their life. And I think come 18, they're going to say, "Stop, Tim. Stop, Ty. You're too much man."
Oh, gosh.
This
is
stop.
all public right now.
You have to stop beating the hell out of us.
Maybe we should have had this off record because now the pressure's on. I'm not sure I play that well under pressure.
No,
but we'll see.
No, listen,
Saturday.
There's no pressure here. There's no pressure. Look, if we lose, we lose. We lose. Fine. I'll shake your hand again, just like I did the last time. I will shake your hand. No COVID, no nothing. I will hand sanitize after, but I will shake your hand. Tony, Tyler, I will shake both of your hands if you beat me again. Me and Tyus. If you beat me and Ty on our best day, if you and I go out and play the kind of golf that I know we are capable of doing, Ty, and they beat us, I'll tip my cap to them, and we will move on. But I don't think they can do that on our best day. I don't think so.
What are the chances that we've been swindled? I will pass along the very important information that Tyler notified me of, that this is what he considers to be his home course where he plays his best.
Oh, there's no question that they're trying to set this up in a big flim-flam here. They are trying to flim-flam you and me, Ty. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You want to know why? Because you're driving the ball well. I played 2 different balls today at the Ponds on my home course, and I shot 75 and 76. And I drove the eyes out of it. And I was hitting some pretty damn good iron shots. If I hit it 80% to what I hit it today, it's over. OVA. Over. It's over. I won't lose. I will beat somebody's ass.
Who hates losing more, you or Tom Brady?
See, I think me and Tom, this is why we're kismet. This is why we're friends. This is why I believe in Tom like I do, because Tom's not the greatest athlete in the world. Contrary to what Charles Barkley says. Tom's not. You saw him at the NFL Combine 20-some years ago. He's just elbows and knees. That's all he is. I mean, there's nothing to him. There's nothing to him. Same here. There's nothing to me. There's nothing to me. I'm 5'7". I'm weak sauce. I'm almost 40. I got nothing. Got a dad bod. I got a bad knee that's been reconstructed. I got nothing. But the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and I concede nothing.
There you go.
It's coming, Tyus. That's the match. The match is this Saturday at Victory Links, and rest assured, Ty and I will be here during our open preview to talk about the whole thing. And I'll give you this, Tyler and Tony. If you win, there's a chance you will. If you win, you are welcome on this podcast to gloat for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Now, don't get me wrong. I will cut it off at 5 minutes. I will cut it right off at 5 minutes. But they will get 5 minutes on this podcast to talk about how shitty I am as a golfer and how shitty you are, Ty, and how crappy we are together, and how we deserve each other because we're both crappy. It's fine. It's fine. That's my stipulation.
All right. The invite has been sent.
There it is. Love it. Oh, Tyus. I'm ready for the match now, dude. Let's go. Let's go now. Now you and I need to get together to align our biorhythms. We need to become. Should we wear the same outfit? I mean, what do we want to do that day?
Yeah, certainly.
Oh,
I don't see why not.
Hey, let's get to the John Deere. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this one today because the field is not great. It's not a great field.
Yeah, it's unfortunate timing for the folks at the John Deere Classic, which is a long running. It's went through a few names, but it's a long running PGA Tour stop. Some stars have been made there. Bryson DeChambeau, if I remember right, has first win here. Jordan Spieth, I know, had his first win here. It has the makings of a tournament. I think that these players like playing in the Midwest this time of year. Has the makings of a tournament that could have a good field, but the timing is just terrible. Unless you're Phil Mickelson in his prime, nobody wants to play the week before the going overseas to play in the British. So it's likewise to the 3M. Nobody also wants to rush home to play TPC Twin Cities, unfortunately. But we get no respect here in the Midwest.
See, here's the thing.
I'm going to have to check on that.
I think some years you'll get a better field for the John Deere. I think with the COVID protocols in England, there are a lot of guys that had to get overseas early. Like guys who would probably normally play here that are just like, nah, I got to get over there now. I got to play the Scottish Open. I got to get back in protocol mode. I got to get back in quarantine mode. I got to do all of that stuff. And I can't take the risk of being down here for the John Deere. I actually think the 3M field could get better. The 3M field doesn't look terrible right now with Ricky committing and a few other guys. I think if you get some guys who miss the cut, they're going to get the hell out of England. Like, they're not hanging around for the weekend. If you get some players, like good players, who miss the cut, would I be shocked if they decided, you know what, screw that, I'm going to fly home and I'm going to play Minneapolis? Because after that's a week off for the Olympics, I'm not going to play then. And then there's a WGC, and then the Wyndham, and then the playoffs. There's built-in time off unless you're an Olympian. So if you're somebody like Phil, would I see you coming to play this tournament if you miss the cut? Yeah, I think you could. Would I be shocked? I mean, no, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think he will, but would I be shocked? No. Same thing with Jordan Spieth, who's not going to go play in the Olympics. I don't think he'll come play here, but he hasn't played a lot recently, and if he missed the cut in England, I would think he might want to pick up a tournament.
Wouldn't that be something?
I'm just saying I'm not ready to close the door on this tournament not having a good field. You know, even DeChambeau, who's played here both years, he loves 3M. You know, he likes science. He's nerded out here both times he's come here. So would I be shocked if DeChambeau, if he had a bad weekend, said, screw that, I got to fix stuff. We're going to go play. I'm playing TPC Twin Cities, where I know I've played well. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, let's get to the John Deere at TPC Deere Run. It is a fun. It's a high-scoring tournament every year. Somebody always, shoots in the high 20 under par usually. It's a good tournament for somebody to break through. It's the kind of tournament that actually you and I sort of like, Ty, because we want to root for somebody new. We want to get behind somebody. Troy's in the field this week too, so we got a little rooting interest in the John Deere starting tomorrow morning.
Right.
So as always, we make our picks for daily fantasy, and because Ty is my friend, as always, I let him go first.
All right, so I'm going to dedicate my picks to a big fan of this show. Just kind of a random fan who lives in the North Metro. Don't know her all that well, but she's reached out to me, and again, she listens to every episode. Marianne, I know you're listening. These picks are dedicated to you. I know your 60th birthday is coming up, and you were hoping for a shout out. So happy 60th birthday to you, Marianne. And these picks are for you.
We 100% support that. 100%.
Yep. So my first pick in memory of Marianne is Byron Sung J M, $11,600.
You made it sound like Marianne wasn't with us. No, it's not in her memory. We love Marianne.
I don't know.
It's not in your memory. No. Happy birthday. Anyway. I also have taken Sung J M. Do you love the fact that Sung J Like, people were giving Sungjae and Sewoo Kim a hard time because they're skipping the Open to focus on the Olympics. I, for one, totally get it. Do you know this story at all, Ty?
No.
They have mandatory military service coming up for South Korea. One of the ways they can get out of that mandatory commitment is if they win an Olympic medal or win the Masters or something like that. But I don't think the Open has the gravitas to the Koreans as winning an Olympic medal. So Sewoo and Sungjae are in total Olympic prep mode. They are leaving the States after this tournament, and they are heading to Tokyo so they can get ready for that tournament. They need to bring home a medal. They need to get out of military service. I think Sungjae is going to find some form. I think he plays well this week. I also take Sungjae in.
Yeah, I don't know why I played dumb there. I just read about that today. So, that's a different animal than what we deal with here in the U.S. We're lucky to be Americans. Tough deal. I mean, you're talking, and it's happened before that golfers have kind of been in their prime, went into their military service. Other countries are similar, European countries, Asian countries, and then you kind of don't hear from them again. I'm not sure how they stay in tip-top shape when they're over there focusing on things that are bigger than golf. So
I'll be rooting for. Come back. Sang Moon Bae has not been a factor since. He has not, and I think he's struggling on the Corn Ferry right now.
Yeah, so I'll be rooting for those guys for that reason, because there's some things that are bigger than golf. So my second pick, I like to take the heater. Played great this past week, especially on Sunday. Made a huge run. For $10,900, I went with Alex Noren, the Swede. Yeah,
Alex Noren it's interesting that he's in the field at John Deere this week, isn't it? I mean, don't you feel like she should be playing the Scottish, a European Tour guy like that? You'd think he'd be in Scotland playing there, but he is really bought into the full PGA Tour vibe, and so he's playing this week. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal for these guys to have status. So I'm not sure what his FedEx Cup standings situation is, but it's a game, as we kind of learned last week talking to Tim Merritt, is, there's bigger things that go into this than loyalties or being close to home. It's these guys want jobs, and these guys know where the money is made, and making sure that you have a job next year is a big deal to these guys.
No question about that. And I should also point out that it's not like this tournament carries no weight. If you win this tournament, you're in the British, and you get a charter jet over that night to go. I mean, they've done that in the past. That's kind of always been a draw, especially for some young guys. That's why guys like Spieth and guys like DeChambeau have taken this tournament on the week prior, because it's been a ticket into the tournament. So it's interesting. My second pick is a guy who's foregoing a major to play this tournament. The U.S. Senior Open is this week, and Steve Stricker is not there. Steve Stricker is at the John Deere, where he has won it. He loves this tournament. It's the 50th anniversary of the John Deere. So for him, it's a 3-hour drive from his home in Wisconsin. He is playing the John Deere, and I am taking him. Give me Steve Stricker, who has played very well on PGA Tour Champions this year, and he's made 6 of 9 cuts on the PGA Tour this year. So $9,000. I'm going to take the old guy. Give me Steve Stricker, Captain Stricker.
Yep, it's just not a guy that you expect to go out and play really poorly. So pretty safe bet there. I like the play from him. At this point, he has other things on his mind. Does he need one more British appearance under his belt? Probably not. So. And as you said, he definitely has a track record here at TPC Deer Run. So for my next pick, despite a Masters and a British title, when I think of Zach Johnson, I think of the John Deere Classic. Yeah. The names go hand in hand. They're synonymous. I took Zach Johnson. He's got a win, 2 runner-ups here. He always seems to play well here in his backyard.
Yeah, this is a great tournament for him usually. He always plays well, and he's actually starting to show signs of life again. Like, he was really... he made that club switch after winning at St. Andrews in 2015. He went from Titleist to PXG, and I haven't seen it with PXG. I haven't seen any of the gains that,
not from the guys.
Always weird when people switch. I always am curious to see if club manufacturer changes are good or bad. In the case of John Rahm, they're clearly good. In the case of Zach Johnson, I don't know if they were good. I mean, he still plays them, but I don't know if this was a great move. But this tournament, he's starting to show signs of life, and he does usually play well here. So this would be a good one for him.
Yeah, there's a number of guys who went to PXG that could be a topic for another episode. But James Hahn, haven't heard from him since. There's a few guys that are on the PXG train that nowhere to be heard from.
Yeah, I mean Horschel's. It's interesting that Horschel's played well post PXG. Actually, he stopped wearing all the stuff, all the PXG stuff. I don't know if he still plays the equipment quietly, but I don't think he does. Because if they ain't going to pay you, why play it? I think he's played better golf this year not doing the PXG stuff. It's just me. I don't know. Not saying, just saying. All right, my third pick, I'm actually taking the highest ranked player in the field. I'm taking Daniel Berger. To me, it feels like a layup, right? How does he not play well here this week? He's arguably the best player in the field. Maybe Sungjae you could make a case for that he's the best player in the field, but Daniel Berger's got to play well this week, right?
Yeah, if he doesn't, there's probably going to be some questions, but this seems like a course that sets up well for him. And he doesn't tend to play all that well when there's big names in the field. So really no other week to pick him better than this one. So,
all right, your fourth pick.
So my fourth pick, I'm all about taking heaters. My next three guys are all heaters. I went with Adam Schenk, back-to-back weeks, played well.
Yeah.
At the Rocket Mortgage Classic, kind of a surprising pick. I did actually double up on my entry for my daily pick'ems at the Rocket Mortgage. 5 out of 6 made the cut, and my worst finisher was 8 under, so not too bad. Adam Schenk cost me $7,700. Despite playing well last week, he didn't move up in cost at all. So I just think same reason I picked him last week. He's a guy who's made more cuts than he hasn't, and in that range of 7,000 to 8,000, he was just head and shoulders above.
Yeah, I had a weird week last week. I did make money, even though DeChambeau and Eckroat missed the cut. I had Joaquin Niemann, Troy Merritt, Hank Lebioda, who went, went 2, 3, and 4 basically in the tournament, and P. Reed, who played half decent as well. I'm going to take a guy I did take last week and is still cheap enough that I can take him again this week. I'm taking Hank Lebioda, who's now had 2 top 10 finishes in a row. Back-to-back top 10 finishes. I love his game. Good power-hitting lefty, who I think has the right attitude. He's a good young player. I like his chances. 12 of 19 cuts. Starting to find a groove here on tour. Starting to really figure it out. This is a great tournament for him again because this whole thing's a wild card. It's a wild card tournament. He can't possibly go into this tournament and think I'm not good enough to win here. He's got to look around and say I can beat every single one of these guys on the driving range. That's what you need, I think, to get started and build some confidence. So I'm going to take Lebioda for 9,700. He's my fourth pick.
Man, he is a free swinger. I don't think I've ever seen anything like a lefty that swings like that. It's something. There's nothing conventional about the way he plays golf. I have to say, for all the picks that we've made on this show, that might be the best pick. In our short history. Great pick on your part. So all credit goes to you and the big lefty, the new big lefty.
If you haven't ever seen Hank Lebioda kind of play, he did that one episode of Wild World of Golf for the NLU guys, and they played Wolfhammer with Curtis Luck, and God, he was good. He shot like 30 on 9 holes. You just looked at him, you're like, God, does this guy miss it? Like, he hits it a mile, and he wedges it close, and he makes putts. It's like, what's not to like about that guy? But he's incredible. So yeah, I'm taking him. All right, who's your fifth?
All right, fifth pick, as I hinted at earlier, it's someone who played well last week, red hot on Sunday. I went with Patton Kizzire. I think Patton Kizzire shot 64.
Yeah, he did.
With some pretty tough pins. Mm-hmm. You never know with going out in the morning when the wind's down and the greens are soft, but played well. And hopefully he can carry that over here at TPC Deer Run.
Yeah, smells like a Patton Kizzire week. I would be stunned if he didn't be a top 10, top 15 guy this week. Couldn't afford him. Couldn't afford a lot of guys after a while. Couldn't even afford my guy Troy this week, or our guy Troy, I should say. I couldn't afford him because he went from being a $7,000 golfer to $10,500 this week. What are they trying to do to us? That's ridiculous.
They must be listening.
So my fifth guy, I scrambled a little bit, and I found a guy who hasn't made a cut yet on the PGA Tour, but he has earned his card because of the 3-win Battlefield promotion on the Korn Ferry Tour. Mito Pereira. He's won 3 times on the Korn Ferry. That gets you an automatic elevation of the PGA Tour. I'm going to take him this week. 8,800. I think he makes his first cut here, and I think he plays well.
Yeah, that's a name I know a little bit. So I was reading about him recently, and supposedly he's pretty good. So we'll see. Good pick.
You win 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour. I mean, I understand it's the Korn Ferry Tour. I understand that. I'm not trying to say it's the same thing as the PGA Tour. It's not. I understand. But a win is a win. And if you can win 3 times anywhere in a calendar year, you are doing something right. Kind of like Garrick Higo, right? Garrick Higo won a couple times in a row on the European Tour, and everybody's like, yeah, it's the European Tour. What does he do? He shows up here and he wins at Congaree. When you know how to win and you start getting that winning vibe in your bloodstream, I think it shows up. It shows up in anywhere you go. You can ride that hot streak for a long time.
Yeah, we've seen it in other sports. Guys who win consistently at every level they play tend to win when they're at the highest level. I'm all in on that.
Last pick.
All right, the anchor to my team, the best-looking guy on tour, pretty much all around. I went with someone who's been playing really well. Played pretty well at Rocket, but just in general, he's been playing well. Seems to be driving the ball straight, which isn't always a given. I went with Pat Perez for $9,000.
Pat Perez.
Just have a feeling about him.
And you like those PXG guys, really? I didn't know that. There you go. See, but Perez is one of the guys that I think has gone to PXG and played well. So I think, I want to say he had his wins the last couple of years. His wins that he got a couple of years ago, he won twice. I want to say those were PXG years for him. But Perez is an interesting guy. He's an easy guy to root for. I like Pat Perez. I didn't take him. I'm going to stick with a guy who I also think is easy to root for, and he's starting to string together some quality weeks. People are starting to know who he is. I'm going to ride that he's going to tap into that Jordan Spieth love a little bit. I'm going to take Kramer Hickok and see if I can catch out the back end of the heater. I don't think it's going to last forever, but again, in a field that's not loaded with stars, would it surprise me if he was a top 10, top 15 guy this week? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So I'm going to take Kramer Hickok to continue to play well, continue to make the cut, and see what he does here at the end. So he didn't take Troy, but Troy's in our hearts.
Yep, always. So I did look at Kramer Hickok a little bit this week, and I was it steered me away a little bit that he's made about a third of the cuts for tournaments he's played. And I look at a guy like that and I think, okay, the future may be bright. We're kind of seeing that, okay, he can hang if he has his stuff, and he certainly has the game, to be a long-term PGA Tour player. But I think there might be a little bit of a stamina issue with a guy like that who probably hasn't been in the spotlight and ended up making the cut, I believe, at Rocket after the marathon playoff the week previous at the Travelers. So could be a little bit of a stamina issue. Time will tell, but that's why I passed on Kramer, but good pick.
See, that's fair to suggest that maybe the stamina is starting to run out, but I was actually impressed that he was able to play on PGA Tour Live in the Cauldron. He was playing with other good players, and he was on TV, and all of his shots were being shown. And that's a couple weeks of attention. That's a lot of hot spotlight, and guys sometimes don't do real well with that. I give him credit. I think he's been able to stand in there and take that, and I think that's only helping him. But I do worry about the stamina. I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair statement. All right, so there we are. Out of all of those picks, do you like anybody to win?
I like Sung J M or Alex Noren to win.
I like Sung Jae to win, too. I don't believe the John Deere Classic will get him out of mandatory military service, but if it does, I'm happy for him. I don't think it will, but Sung Jae, it's okay to win it anyway. If not, you got to bank that money because you got to have as much in the bank as you can when you leave for your 2-year mandatory thing. Although I still think he has a few years. He might have a few years before that comes up. Siwoo Kim does not have a few years. Like, he needs it now if he wants to stay on tour. So there's that. All right, we're going to keep an eye on the John Deere this week. We're also going to keep an eye on the Scottish Open. Lots of big names in the field, as always. A lot of PGA guys go over there, Reed's over there this week. A lot of dudes are going to play in the Scottish this week, in the week leading up to Royal St. George's. Next week, Ty and I will be back here talking Open Championship, getting ourselves ready for Royal St. George's. We will be breaking it down, getting it ready. We will also be recapping our stirring, thrilling victory in the Match 2.0 at Victory Links this Saturday. Cannot wait to talk about that because you and I are coming ready, and we're going to continue to align our biorhythms between now and Saturday morning at 7:45.
Sounds good. I'm all in. Like I said, I appreciate you talking me off of a steep ledge. I was thinking that I might just sleep in on Saturday and avoid the ass whipping, but now I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm ready to win. No question. I'll be there ready to go.
Listen, man, win, lose, or draw, we're good. We're holding our head up. We're walking out of there. No worries about that whatsoever. But we can't go in there with our heads down. We can't be hangdog.
Nope.
We have to do this. We have to have we got to be a little cocksure here. Got to be a little bit sure of ourselves heading in. Otherwise, what's the point? We might as well just write him a check right now and move on. If you're going to take $20 off me, it better be everything you got, pal. That's all I'm saying. It's going to take a war to get that 20 away from me. My wife will tell you, it's hard to pry $20 out of my cold, dead hand. I'll tell you that much. All right. I want to thank everybody for listening. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find me, Tim Anderson Pod. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Tim Anderson. You can also email the show at timpodcast1@yahoo.com. You can also talk to my guy, tyshrupp.com. Insurance needs, he'll take care of you. That's my guy. That's what he does. We will, again, watch a lot of golf this week and have you back here. So until next time. For Ty, this is Tim saying keep your head up, and we'll see you.